Part 61. The Prime Minister seduced me to give birth. Author, Jin Kui. Chapter 601. Gu Yuhang watched sadly as his daughter was supported by Zhang Yuzi into the carriage, and when the carriage disappeared, he slowly paced home. When he arrived at Xiaja Yikao, he saw his little servant, who bent over. My wife specially sent the little boy to pick up the master here, and the house waits for the master to cook dinner. Gu Yuhang didn't say anything, he followed the servant back home. When the maids and wives saw him coming back, they hurriedly went to the kitchen to pick up the food and put it on the table. After a while, all the servants withdrew, leaving Mrs. Lu and Gu Yuhang in the room, as well as their 4-year-old child. When the child saw Gu Yuhang coming in, he said, "Why did Dad come back? I'm hungry." Gu Yuhang looked at the child and said softly, "It's father's, isn't it? Let's eat." During the meal, Gu Yuhang started several times, but was interrupted by Mrs. Lu. Finally, Mrs. Lu said, "Husband has something to say. Let's talk about it after dinner." After eating, Mrs. Lu asked the mother-in-law to carry the child out, and entered Gu Yuhang's room herself. When Gu Yuhang came in, she got up and closed the door, looked at Gu Yuhang and said quietly, "Husband met his biological daughter, what do you want?" Gu Yuhang was silent for a moment. Mrs. Lu, this fake is fake after all. I will replace Chen Song's identity, and it is only a matter of time before I find out. Don't say anything else, as long as Chen Song's family goes to Beijing, they can find out. Also, when Chen Song was a local magistrate, although he didn't have to go to Beijing to report his duties, many officials in the entire Nanzhou prefecture, large and small, had seen him. If I want to go to Beijing to report my work, then I will have no choice but to die. When the matter is revealed, everyone will think that you and I conspired to kill Chen Song, and the crime of impersonating an official will not be counted as a life lawsuit. Madame Lu was silent. Gu Yuhang said firmly, "This time, no matter what Madame says, I will resign. You are going to expose me, and I can't care about it. If you die sooner or later, you will die. I will tell everything, and the court will decide who is right and who is wrong." Mrs. Lu said coldly, "You want to resign because you are in a hurry to reunite with your wife and children." Gu Yuhang said angrily, "My family is in a mess because my father is not here, and now it's broken. The eldest daughter is dead, and the wife is determined to remarry. If the younger daughter hadn't stopped her, she would have already been a concubine, and what is the reunion?" Mrs. Lu was silent for a while. "Husband, I'm sorry, I didn't know." Gu Yuhang sneered, "Don't call me husband, you and I both know that your husband is someone else." Mrs. Lu sighed, "Although I came up with this idea on impulse, since that day, I have sincerely treated you as my husband. Perhaps, from my husband's point of view, I am a woman who will do anything to seek glory and wealth. I do like glory and wealth, and who can not like it? However, I also have my difficulties. My in-laws are mean, I know that I will not have a good life when I go back to my hometown, and I can't keep my money with me. I can remarry, but I can't take my child with me. My child is just over 2 years old. If I throw him to his grandparents, uncles, and aunts, it's hard to say whether he will grow up," Lu said, bowing his head and wiping tears. Gu Yuhang said indifferently, "How much trouble do you have? After all, I want you to ruin your family. I have to worry about people falling to the ground all the time. The Prime Minister seduced me to give birth." Author, Jin Kui. Chapter 602. Madame Lu suddenly looked up at Gu Yuhang again. "I have no objection if you want to resign." Gu Yuhang looked at her in surprise. "Really?" Mrs. Lu nodded. "I originally thought that at the end of the year, the officials will go to Beijing to report their work, and you can report illness at home, and no one will find out. But you're right, it's not the way to be so worried. It's just that you can resign. I have a request." Gu Yuhang breathed a sigh of relief. You said. Mrs. Lu said faintly, it's just that my husband can't leave our mother and son. We will go wherever you go. Gu Yuhang was startled. This. Why did Mrs. Lu say this? Mrs. Lu looked at him resentfully. One day husband and wife, 100 days of kindness. Did your husband forget our past love? Husband didn't think of those things before. Call me Xiao Xiang Xiang, we just can't wait to be together every day. Gu Yuhang's face flushed. In the past, he thought that Mrs. Lu was his wife, and there was a natural love between the two of them. It's embarrassing to mention this again now. Mrs. Lu stared at Gu Yuhang. Don't you believe me? I really love my husband. Gu Yuhang originally thought that when he returned home, he would face Mrs. Liu's questioning and noise, but who knows, she told him about it. How would he answer this? The love was naturally there, and it remained in his memory. However, when she thought that she was deceived and played with her, those affections faded. Especially now that he has ruined his family, what's the point of saying this? Mrs. Lu saw that Gu Yuhang's expression seemed to be touched, and then she softened her voice. Gu Lang, since your wife has already given birth to 2 hearts, you will always have to continue in the future. Isn't it good for us to be husband and wife? Gu Yuhang looked at Mrs. Lu with a cold smile. Mrs. Lu, I originally had 10 acres of land at home, but now I have nothing left. In the future, I plan to go back to my old business and treat people. Knowing that you can earn a few coins, madam can live like this. Mrs. Lu nodded without hesitation, and said decisively, following my husband, even if I eat bran and swallow vegetables, I am willing to do so. Mrs. Liu's remarks are not half false. Gu Yuhang has a good temper and is gentle and considerate towards her, and the two of them are in harmony. Except for being a little older, she was better than her ex-husband in every aspect. Slowly, her heart fell on Gu Yuhang. Especially when he was still kind to Tao, he remembered his own identity and still treated Tao as always. She can't lose this husband, and Tao can't live without this father. In the past 3 months, after Gu Yuhang remembered the past, she refused to have the same room with her, and she was always far away from her on weekdays, and her heart was empty. She was really afraid that Gu Yuhang would leave her. She suddenly felt that as long as Gu Yuhang didn't leave, no official position, glory, wealth, and honor were important, and she was willing to eat chaff with Gu Yuhang. Gu Yuhang could see that Mrs. Lu was speaking the truth. He didn't know what to say for a while, just said, I'll take leave tomorrow. Mrs. Lu nodded silently. Gu Yuhang got up and opened the door, then turned his back and said nothing. Mrs. Lu took a bitter look at his back and went out of the room. The next day, Gu Yuhang got up early to shave his beard cleanly, and found a sapphire blue robe to wear. This color looked young. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Prime Minister seduced me to give birth. Author, Jin Kui. Chapter 603. Gu Yunjiao took Gu Chuan, and the two sat in the carriage, heading towards the workshop. Zhang Yuzi went to Kuazijian, and still asked her to bring 50 personal soldiers out. Gu Yuhang looked at the street early, and saw the carriage being guarded by the personal soldiers slowly approaching. He couldn't help being a little excited, and craned his neck to look at the carriage. The carriage stopped at the intersection, and then the curtain was lifted. Gu Yunjiao stuck her head out, and said softly, Dad, get in the car. Gu Yuhang got into the carriage, and Gu Chuan threw himself into his arms almost instantly, crying and shouting, Dad, why did you come here? Do you know that we have worked so hard to find you, woo woo woo. Gu Yuhang hugged his son tightly. Yesterday he didn't dare to hug Gu Yunjiao, but today he hugged his son firmly in his arms. The joy of reuniting after a long absence is even more real. Father and son hug each other and cry. The carriage went all the way into the workshop. Mrs. Lu was standing by the door, watching the carriage pass by. Just now, the little servant came over and told her that the old man got into the carriage, and the carriage came into the alley. Mrs. Lu thought it was coming to her own house, but she didn't expect that the carriage drove straight past and went to the workshops that were separated by several houses. Madame Lu looked at the soldiers on horseback and couldn't help but be startled. Gu Yuheng's daughter is married to a wonderful family. Then she wants to follow Gu Yuheng. I'm afraid it will be difficult. She turned bitterly. Here, the carriage entered the workshop, and the guards were scattered. The two female guards that Mrs. Wu found for Gu Yunjiao were twins, Lei Ying and Lei Xia. They waited for Gu Yunjiao's father and daughter to enter the room and then stood up. Outside the door, Gu Yunjiao looked at the father and son crying with snot and tears. The father and son looked the same when they cried, with their eyes and nose wrinkled. When they were almost crying, Gu Yunjiao handed over 2 handkerchiefs. Gu Yuheng carefully wiped away his snot and tears for his son, and wiped it off himself. Gu Chuan hugged his father's neck and did not let go. Gu Yuheng coaxed him for a while before saying to Gu Yunjiao, she agreed to what she said yesterday, but she made another request. Gu Yunjiao said, what request? Gu Yuheng blushed, unable to speak. After a long while, she whispered, she said, they can't leave their mother and son behind. Gu Yunjiao raised her brows. It seemed that Mrs. Lu really liked her father. After all, her father is now empty-handed, except for this person, there is nothing to show others. Gu Yunjiao asked, then she didn't say anything. What will happen to her if you don't agree to her request? Gu Yuheng was stunned, I didn't say it, I forgot to ask. Gu Yunjiao lowered her eyes and said, that father might as well ask her to come over and ask. It would be better if this matter was resolved earlier. Gu Yuheng nodded, okay, I'll go call her. Gu Chuan hugged his neck tightly, where are you going, Dad? Gu Yuheng said helplessly, if you don't go anywhere, it's right next to you. You can go with me. Gu Yunjiao said softly, Xiao Chuan, don't follow him. Dad's current identity cannot be revealed yet. Although Gu Chuan was reluctant, he obediently let go of Gu Yuheng's body. After a while, Gu Yuheng called Mrs. Lu over. As soon as Mrs. Lu entered the door, she knelt down towards Gu Yunjiao and her brother, I'm sorry, because of my confusion, you both lost your father and suffered a lot. Gu Chuan looked at her angrily. On the way, her sister told him everything. The Prime Minister seduced me to give birth. Author, Jin Kui. Chapter 604. Gu Yunjiao looked at Madame Lu coldly, and said indifferently, because of you, a good family has been separated from his wife and family, and his family has been destroyed. Does Madame Lu think that kneeling down can offset all your sins? Mrs. Lu lowered her head, I know I can't, but this is the end. I have no other way than to ask for your forgiveness. Gu Yunjiao raised her brows, if you forgive or not, we'll talk about it later. My father is going to resign. I heard that you have a request, so I want to ask, if you don't agree to your request, what are you going to do? Mrs. Lu knelt on the ground and lowered her head, no, I didn't plan to do anything. It's just that our orphans and widows are too difficult, and I just want to find a way to survive. Please forgive me, miss. Gu Yunjiao chuckled lightly, I can't control this matter. After all, you are not living with me. After she finished speaking, she squinted at Gu Yuheng. Gu Yuheng looked at Madame Lu with a complicated expression. Although they had only been together for 2 years, the love they once had was not fake. Mrs. Niu was very smart. In retrospect, she was more happy and comfortable with Mrs. Lu than with Mrs. Li. But if you just forgive her like this, what are the hardships her daughter and son endured? What is your broken family and a dead daughter? And since he regained his memory, What was the torment day and night and the longing for his wife and children? Gu Yuheng's expression gradually changed from hesitant to firm. He looked at Mrs. Lu on the ground. I can't accept living with a woman like you. I just shudder at the thought that you were able to calm down so quickly and come up with such a terrible idea when your husband is dead. I share the same bed with such a woman every day, and I don't know when I will be killed. Mrs. Lu knelt on the ground and closed her eyes in pain. She also knew that what she was asking for was hopeless, so as soon as she entered the door, she made a full gesture and knelt down. I just didn't expect that in Gu Yuheng's heart. She was a terrible woman. She looked up at Gu Yunjiao. Miss, you are also a woman, you should know how difficult it is for us women to survive in this world. Without the protection of a man, I have no choice but to make this decision. I beg Miss and young master to forgive me for my momentary confusion. Gu Yunjiao looked at her indifferently. No matter how difficult it is, it's not the reason why you rob someone else's husband. You are so smart, you can naturally think that my father, a man in his 30s, must have a wife and children. You only care about yourself. Why have you ever thought about what would happen to his wife and children if they lost his protection? I'm sorry Mrs. Lu, I can't forgive you. Gu Chuan also said bitterly, I won't forgive you either. Mrs. Liu's face was so gray. At this moment, she knew that she had no hope of following Gu Yuheng. Gu Yuheng loves her children, and neither of his children forgives her, so there is really no possibility between them. Mrs. Lu kowtowed a few times on the ground and stood up. That being the case, for the sake of Lang Gu, big brother Gu will have less trouble in the future, and for myself, I have one more thing to ask for. Gu Yunjiao said lightly, you say it? When Mrs. Lu came, she made plans for both, and she said slowly, Brother Gu has resigned, and he just doesn't have to worry about being discovered by his colleagues in the officialdom. But Chen Song still has parents and brothers, and they have to give an explanation there. The Prime Minister seduced me to give birth. Author, Jin Kui. Chapter 605. Gu Yunjiao glanced at her. What are you going to explain? Mrs. Lu said, I don't want to get married in the future, but I don't want to go back to my mother-in-law's house. Big brother Gu and I want to get out of this situation. The only way is to fake death. Gu Yunjiao raised her eyebrows. Looks like you've made up your mind. Mrs. Liu's guilt disappeared at this time, and said calmly, no way, I can only plan for myself and my son. Gu Yunjiao glanced at her father. Gu Yuheng nodded. What should I do, tell me. Mrs. Lu said, I've thought about it. Brother Gu can say that he is not in good health and resign. If he resigns, he will have to go back to his hometown. I will sell the house, and the servants will be dismissed. Brother Gu and I will take the child with us. We will leave the city in full view. After that, we will find a dangerous place and pretend to be robbed by the robbers. In this way, people can escape and property can be preserved. Gu Yunjiao couldn't wait to applaud this woman. She came up with such an idea in such a short time. This Mrs. Lu really is not an ordinary person. She raised her eyebrows and looked at Mrs. Lu. I don't know where Mrs. Lu is going to find such a cooperative gangster. If you fake death, the corpse will be indispensable. Where are you going to get the corpse? Mrs. Lu saluted Gu Yunjiao. This matter can only be left to the girl. The girl has a lot of personal guards and guards. This should be just a trivial matter for you. Gu Yunjiao sneered in her heart. When Mrs. Lu said this plan, she knew that Mrs. Lu had made up her own mind. What she was aggrieved was that, in order for her father to be able to walk in the sun in the future, she had to cooperate perfectly with this suspended animation. Otherwise, when Mrs. Lu finds someone, she is afraid of turning the fake robbery into a real robbery. Gu Yunjiao narrowed her eyes. Okay, I can find someone to do everything, but after that, where does Mrs. Lu plan to go? Mrs. Lu gave a wry smile. I don't know either. After the suspended animation, the family can't go back. Maybe go to the south. Don't worry, girl, I won't reveal a word about this matter until I die. Gu Yunjiao naturally hoped that Mrs. Lu would go as far as possible. She said lightly, "It's better to remember what you said." Mrs. Lu was deeply blessed. "Thank you, girl." She saluted Gu Chuan again, and then turned around and went out. Gu Yunjiao and Gu Yuheng discussed in a low voice for a while. In order to be more credible, Gu Yuheng had to pretend to be sick for a few days before resigning. Gu Yuheng is a doctor himself, so he naturally knows how to pretend to be sick. After the father and daughter discussed it, Gu Yuheng said to Gu Chuan, "You can bear with me for a few more days. When daddy has dealt with everything, we can live together, and daddy can accompany you every day." Gu Chuan nodded sensible. Back at the house, Gu Yunjiao told Zhang Yuzi about it, and Zhang Yuzi said, "Leave this to me, you don't have to worry about it. You just tell me which way they go out of town one day." For the next few days, Gu Yuheng took leave every day, and most of his colleagues in the Ministry of Industry knew that he was ill. Gu Yuheng is a kind person. He is willing to work overtime to help his colleagues when they are in trouble. Therefore, he has a good relationship with his colleagues. Now that the world is over, a few colleagues invited to visit Gu Yuheng together. They had never been to Gu Yuheng's house, but they knew that he lived in Huihua Alley, and they found a place after inquiring nearby. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Prime Minister seduced me to give birth. Author, Jinkui. Chapter 606. Mrs. Lu brought people in with a sad expression, and several colleagues were startled when they saw Gu Yuheng. It's only been a few days since Gu Yuheng's cheeks are sunken, his eyes are yellow, and his face is also yellow. Gu Yuheng lay on the bed and said feebly, "The doctor said that I am sick and can't work hard, so I have to rest for a few years. I have planned to resign this official and return to my hometown to recuperate." It was hard for everyone to say anything. After all, Gu Yuheng was seriously ill when he looked like this. No matter how important it was to be an official, his life was not as important. Everyone comforted them, left some tonic gifts, and left. A few days later, Gu Yuheng really submitted his resignation letter. The boss had already heard about Gu Yuheng's situation, and he felt sorry for it, so he approved Gu Yuheng's resignation letter and sent it to the official department. The resignation of a small fifth-grade worker, Wei Lang, did not make much splash. Gu Yuheng also sent a letter to several people in the same year, informing him that he was going back to his hometown. Mrs. Lu stepped up to change the house in the seller's house, and sent all the servants away. Early this morning, 2 carriages came out of Huihua Alley, and soon after they left the city gate, they arrived at Chili Pavilion. Today just happened to take a rest. Gu Yuheng's few of the same year made an appointment to send him a gift, and prepared drinks at Chili Pavilion to wait for Gu Yuheng. The carriage stopped slowly after passing the pavilion. Mrs. Lu got out of the car and expressed a deep blessing to everyone. "Thank you all for coming to see you off, but my husband is seriously ill, and I can't even stand up to say goodbye to you." Mrs. Lu raised the curtain of the car, and everyone looked in from the window. Gu Yuheng's face was yellow and thin, and he nodded slightly at them while lying in the car. Everyone sighed, seeing Gu Yuheng like this. He couldn't even drink a glass of wine to see him off. One asked in the same year, "Brother Gu is so ill, is it okay to go on the road like this?" Mrs. Lu replied respectfully, "I have asked the doctor, and she said that although the disease looks serious, it is not a problem in terms of life. As long as you take good medicine, you will be fine for 2 or 3 years." In the same year, he nodded, "That's good. Wait 2 or 3 years, if Brother Chen thinks about it again, if we can help, we will definitely help." Mrs. Lu was deeply blessed, and Gu Yuheng in the carriage also cheered up and thanked him. Everyone at the window asked Gu Yuheng a few words of concern and waved goodbye. The carriage was on the road again. There were only 4 people in the 2 carriages, Mrs. Liu and Gu Yuheng in one, and Mrs. Liu's maid and her son in the other. This maid has been with Mrs. Liu since she was a child, and she is loyal to her. Therefore, Mrs. Liu sold no one to her. On the official road that carriages take, it is very lively with people coming and going along the way. On the second day, there were fewer people and cars on the official road than near the capital. This day, due to Gu Yuheng's illness, the decoction took some time at noon, and it was getting dark before arriving at the inn. The 2 coachmen were a little anxious and just wanted to hurry to the inn. They were used to this road, and they knew where to rest. Moreover, even if it is an official road, there are no lights at night, and the darkness is not safe. A coachman was calculating in his mind how far he was from the inn, when he suddenly found a carriage crossing the road not far ahead blocking the way. Fortunately, there was a lantern hanging on the carriage, otherwise it almost hit. The 2 carriages had to stop. The 2 coachmen were experienced, and at this time they began to beat drums in their hearts. The carriage didn't look like it was broken. Could it be that someone wanted to stop the road and grab it? The Prime Minister seduced me to give birth. Author, Jinkui. Chapter 607. The driver in front was craned his neck to watch, and suddenly a group of people emerged from the side of the road. The driver didn't see anything else, but saw the bright knives in the hands of this group of people. Damn it, the driver in front rolled off the cab and ran back desperately. Seeing the situation, the driver behind him jumped out of the car and ran as fast as he could. Fortunately, those strong men probably knew that these drivers had no oil or water on them, so they ignored them and walked towards the 2 cars with their knives. The group of people covered their heads with black cloth hoods, only showing 2 eyes, and soon surrounded the 2 cars. After waiting for a while, after confirming that the 2 drivers were gone, a masked man lifted the curtain and bowed his hands inside, "Please get off." Gu Yuheng hurriedly got up from the car and got out of the car. Mrs. Liu also got out of the car. She looked at Gu Yuheng with 1,000 words in her eyes. In the end, she only asked quietly, "Gu Lang, are you really unwilling to forgive me?" Gu Yucheng stared at her for a long time, then bowed his hands. "It's a long way to go, madam, take care." After speaking, he walked to the side, turned his back and stopped looking at Madame Liu. Madame Liu looked sadly at Gu Yuheng's back, gritted her teeth, and strode forward. She got into the car, got into the carriage, and quickly changed into men's clothes. The maid helped her to tie her hair into a man's appearance. Mrs. Liu got out of the carriage, sat on the carriage, raised her horsewhip, and gave a coquettish voice, "Drive." The sound of hoofs was heard, and the sound gradually faded away. A Chiu, who was covered with a hood, invited Gu Yuheng to the carriage, turned around and ran away. Mrs. Liu rushed forward in the car. Tonight, they could not rest in the inn, otherwise, as long as the government checked, they would soon be exposed. When she used to follow her father to do business in other places, she learned to drive a car because it was fun, but she didn't expect it to come in handy now. The night wind blew her hair and dried the tears on her face. To this day, she has no regrets. Being able to have this period of loving time with Gu Yuheng, let her know that there are still such good men in this world, and she is not living in vain. As for the future, she felt that she could live her life slowly while guarding her memories. Just when Mrs. Liu imagined that she was getting old, sitting in front of the door with white hair and recalling the past, the horse suddenly neighed and knelt down on its front legs, and then the horse fell to the ground. The moving carriage also fell forward, and Mrs. Liu fell from the carriage to the ground. Only then did she see a horse stop across the road. The maid and child in the carriage also fell out. The 4-year-old Tower had already fallen asleep, but she woke up after being thrown to the ground and burst into tears. Mrs. Lu was lying on the ground. She could feel that several bones in her body were broken, and her whole body felt like it was about to split. Hearing her son's cries, she was so anxious that she was afraid of where her son might fall, so she struggled to crawl in the direction of her son. The maid was also loyal, and at the moment when the car got out of control, she stubbornly protected the child in her arms, so Tower fell to the ground without being injured, and the maid fell to her head and fainted. Just as Mrs. Lu was crawling in the direction of her son, a sharp sword stabbed into Mrs. Lu's back. At this moment, Mrs. Lu only felt an icy chill that penetrated from her back to her heart. Mrs. Lu also thought about whether she would be wiped out. She wanted to follow Gu Yuheng, but she knew that in front of those real nobles, she couldn't escape even if she wanted to. The Prime Minister seduced me to give birth. Author, Jin Kui. Chapter 608. There was a wry smile on Mrs. Liu's lips, and sure enough, the more powerful she was, the darker her heart was. She felt that her life was being lost bit by bit. The moon today was very good. She saw her son not far away, crying and calling her mother, and crawling towards her hard. She couldn't move. She stretched out her hand, but still couldn't touch her son. She used all her strength, but her voice was still like a mosquito. Please, please let my son go, he is still young, he do not know anything. A cold voice came from the darkness, don't worry, we will find him a good family. Mrs. Lu smiled sadly, and at this moment she felt the cold knife being drawn out of her body little by little. She only now realizes that not everyone in this world will forgive you. If something is wrong, it will cost you your life. She looked at her son, who seemed to never be able to climb up, and slowly closed her eyes. Gu Yuheng sat in the carriage, feeling up and down. Although he couldn't forgive Mrs. Lu, he was also worried that she was a weak woman, driving a carriage in the middle of the night. He moved out of it and asked Chiu, who was driving the car, anxiously, there aren't really bad people on that road, right? Chiu knew that this was Miss Gu's biological father, so she turned her head and replied respectfully, Dr. Gu, rest assured, officialdom is very safe, and generally there will be no bad guys. This time, the young master handed it all over to him. Because of the last time Zhang Yuzi let the dead man assassinate the prince, the grandfather of the country was frightened and felt that the son was too daring, so he privately told Akio that if the prince asked them to do anything again, he had to tell him first. But don't cause any more catastrophic disasters. Chiu told the father of the country exactly what happened. Hearing that Zhang Yuzi asked Akio to find a few corpses to confuse the public, he shook his head and said, although this child is courageous, he is still too merciful. The woman and the maid hold such a secret. They can't keep it. They must cut the grass and root out. The child is not a problem. After all, it's still young. Besides, it's hurtful to deal with the child. Find a family and throw it over there. Grandpa Guo said indifferently, this matter, if Shizi asks you, say it's done, and you don't need to say anything else. Although Chiu is following Zhang Yuzi now, but after all, he has been with the grandfather of the country for so many years, and it is impossible not to listen to the grandfather of the country. After hearing Chiu's answer, Gu Yuheng felt a lot more at ease. Thinking that his identity could not be revealed, he quickly retreated into the car. The next day, Gu Yuheng returned to the capital. After returning to the city, he lived in a house that Gu Yunjiao had just bought. Gu Yunjiao originally bought this two-entry house as a dowry, but now it is just right for her father to live in. Gu Yunjiao sent Uncle Du and Madame Tian away. Uncle Dum helped to watch the door, and Mrs. Tian did some cleaning and grocery shopping. Gu Chuan felt uncomfortable living in the Kuagong mansion, and he had to live with Gu Yuheng no matter what. Gu Yunjiao asked people to pack up his things and let him move out. He is now studying in a very famous private school in the capital. Gu Yunjiao saw that a servant named Lian Jun who followed Gu Chuan was very clever, So she asked him if he would like to follow Gu Chuan to Gu's residence. After all, when people go to high places and leave the Kuagong's mansion to go to Gu's mansion, they will definitely go down. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Prime Minister seduced me to give birth. Author, Jinkui. Chapter 609. Liang Yan thought about it for a long time, and then replied, Little is willing to follow the young master to take care of the house. Gu Yunjiao said, The Duke's mansion definitely has a brighter future than the Gu family, why are you willing to follow? Liang Yan replied, I was in the government's mansion, and I did some odd jobs in the past, and no one looked down on me. After I followed the young master, I was taken seriously. I've heard a saying, I'd rather be the head of a chicken than the queen of a cow. I'm afraid I'll never have a chance to make a name for myself in the government's mansion. I can only do insignificant things all my life. But the young master is only me. Servant, I'd rather follow the young master. As I get older in the future, if I can be a steward for the young master, I will be able to make it through. Gu Yunjiao listened to what he said so well, and seemed to have thought it over carefully. She asked Mrs. Wu for a sales contract with Liang Yan, and asked him to go to school with Gu Chuan every day. Gu Yunjiao herself didn't dare to move in. Although Yan Baikan had lost a lot of manpower, he didn't dare to start in the capital during the day, but it was still easy to send a few people to capture her in the middle of the night. Even if she has 2 female bodyguards, Lei Ying and Lizia, it is not safe. A few days later, there was a rumor circulating in the capital that an official who had resigned and returned home was ordered to be robbed and killed on the official road. The husband and wife and a maid are dead, the child is missing, and all the property has been taken away. Gu Yunjiao deliberately asked someone to inquire, and heard that this case was taken over by someone from the Ministry of Justice, because the criminals only stole money, and the luggage of several people did not move, so the Ministry of Justice immediately knew the identities of these people. The Ministry of Punishment sent an official document asking Chen Song's family to come to Beijing to recognize the body. Chen Song's hometown is near Xiangcheng, and by the time the letter is delivered, it will be almost 20 days later. Chen Song's family got the news, like a bolt from the blue. Chen Song's 2 younger brothers hurriedly packed up and went to Beijing. By the time they arrived in the capital, almost 40 days had passed since the Ministry of Justice found the body. The days have entered May, the weather is gradually getting hot, and several corpses have already begun to rot. Especially Chen Song, who was slashed twice in the face, and could not recognize his appearance for a long time. Chen Song's 2 younger brothers didn't dare to look at them. They recognized the corpse indiscriminately, and they set fire to ashes outside the city. There was no way to do this. Chen Song's colleagues in the same year also learned the news long ago, and they sighed for a while. When Chen Song's 2 younger brothers left, they gathered some silver taels to send over, which was considered a sign of their affection. Since then, Chen Song has completely disappeared from the world. Gu Yuheng hid at home for a while, and the beard on his jaw slowly grew out. In the past, Mrs. Niu did not allow him to grow a beard, saying it was showing his age. Now, he has a beard and looks several years older, and the age gap with Chen Song is getting bigger and bigger. It's just that Gu Yunjiao still doesn't allow him to go out, saying that he will have to wait a few months until the beard grows longer. The weather is hot, and the workshop is the busiest time, not only to make perfume, but also to make toilet water. Gu Yunjiao goes out early every day and returns late. And in the Kuagong's mansion, Mrs. Wu was also busy, because Zhang Han was about to get married. The date of marriage was already optimistic about last year. Mrs. Wu didn't want to care about it, but she didn't care. If she really wanted to leave this matter to Auntie Su, wouldn't it make people think that Auntie Su was the mistress of the Duke's mansion? The Prime Minister seduced me to give birth. Author, Jinkui. Chapter 610. The Marquis of Changping had a very unfriendly attitude towards the nanny sent by Mrs. Wu to discuss the marriage. Mammy was so angry that she came back and complained to Mrs. Wu. The servant sat in the gatehouse for a long time before being brought in. There was not even a cup of tea when I entered. The Marquis of Changping didn't see me either. She only sent an old maid to listen to me. The old mama was deaf, and the servant girl shouted at her voice for a long time, but she was still awe. Mrs. Wu couldn't help but want to laugh. She knew that the Marquis of Changping was also very aggrieved now. The good eldest daughter, who had been raised carefully since childhood, is now going to marry a poor concubine, and no one is happy. Mrs. Wu reassured her, "Thank you for your hard work, hurry up and drink some tea. Since that's the case, let's just leave it alone and let concubine Su deal with the headache." She sent someone to call concubine Su over, and calmly told about what happened to Mammy when she went to the Marquis of Changping. "My people don't feel that way. You send your people over to discuss it with them, and then come back to me after you've negotiated it." Mrs. Wu knew very well that concubine Su might play tricks on other things, but she must be more concerned about her son's marriage than anyone else, and she didn't want to make a mistake. Well, so, she plans to use Auntie Su's people to do things, and when things are done, it's all thanks to her mistress. Concubine Su replied very respectfully, "Yes, it's my wife's trouble." She paused and then said, "I want to go to the Marquis of Changping mansion, and I also ask the lady to be kind." Mrs. Wu said lightly, "That's right." Auntie Su respectfully withdrew. Lin Qiao whispered, "Why did concubine Su go to the Marquis of Changping?" Mrs. Wu chuckled, "She is afraid that this marriage will be ruined, so she is anxious to appease the Marquis of Changping." Lin Qiao asked curiously, "Is it useful?" Mrs. Wu said, "Her family is a very rich man in the south of the Yangtze River, and now the business has been done in the capital. As long as she is willing to pay for the money, this marriage should not be able to escape." Lin Qiao asked again, "Her family is so rich, how could she have been sent to the palace back then?" Mrs. Wu shook her head, "You don't know, the more wealthy you are, the more you need protection. Otherwise, people will be jealous of your money and charge you with any crime, and you can confiscate your family and ruin your property. Their family sent their daughter to the palace just to seek asylum. I didn't expect that they would enter the Duke's mansion by accident." The corners of her mouth twitched, revealing a mocking smile. "Isn't the Duke's mansion the shelter of their family for more than 10 years? The Su family is responsible for supplying many things in the palace now, and their family's relationship in the palace is now intertwined, which should not be underestimated." After Lin Qiao heard it, she seemed to understand. Concubine Su went to the Marquis of Changping for a trip. I don't know what benefits it gave, but nothing happened in the Marquis of Changping. As for the wedding, Auntie Su made sure that everything was properly managed. Even Mrs. Wu had to admit that when it comes to housekeeping, Auntie Su is far more talented than she is. Even the ledger she handed in before is clearly written, maybe she is not short of money, and she is not greedy for the money of the government. Soon it was the day when Zhang Han and Ling Wei got married. Gu Yunjiao left the house early in the morning to go to the workshop. Zhang Han's marriage had nothing to do with her, and she didn't need to entertain. When the carriage approached Huihua Alley, Gu Yunjiao suddenly looked at the cafe on the street through the gauze-covered window.